Hello again, folks, and welcome to a special state quarterfinal playoff edition of the Gridiron Report, a look at the week's top stories in Fredericksburg Regional High School football. I'm Mark Coleman from the Riverbend Sports Network. Hope you enjoyed a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and maybe even partook of some of the wonderful football that we had over the long Thanksgiving weekend. Some really delectable matchups and some incredible finishes at every level, high school, college, and pros. We'll be talking about high schools, however. 5 area teams still alive on Thanksgiving weekend in the playoffs, 4 big games to talk about, and I've got a great 2 guests on the roster here to talk about just that. First, we've got from the Freelance Star, Assistant Sports Editor, Justin Rice. Justin, good to see you again.
Thanks, Mark.
And how about this? We also have the head coach from James Monroe High School, the Yellow Jackets, Coach Rich Serbay. Coach,
nice to be here.
Yeah,
nice to be here.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Well, Coach, congratulations on a big win last week. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I also want to congratulate you, though. So the 3rd year in a row you have been holding a practice on Thanksgiving Day. How much better does the turkey taste when you know that your team is still alive in the playoffs?
It tastes really well. I mean, it's real. I mean, the kids enjoy it. I get invited to a lot of parents' houses for dinner. So I had 3 turkey dinners.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty neat. It's a great time. It's football and Thanksgiving go hand in hand.
You were saying that your goal every year is to get to game 11. There's a big push, a desire to be able to play, to practice on that Thanksgiving Day. What does that mean to the kids?
Well, we set a goal in August to get to game 11. Once you get to game 11, you can get to 12, you can get to 13, you can get to 14. The key is to make the playoffs and get in there. Once you get in there, get your feet wet, win the first game, and Thanksgiving's right around the corner. So our kids, they strive for that. They look forward to it, and we kind of push them along on that, and they respond really well.
Well, 3 years in a row. That's a pretty impressive streak that JM's got going on.
Yeah, it's for JM, and then when you look at North Stafford moving on, the area hasn't seen a year like this. I don't know, Coach, you've been around for a long time. To get 3 teams left out of the 24, I mean, it's a big deal, right, for Fredericksburg?
I think it is a big deal because, the recruiters come in, they talk about 757, they talk about the Richmond area. There's some great football in the 540. Some really great football. We had a number of college coaches in here today, and they visited me. They went to North Stafford, Colonial Forge, because we have some good kids. They do too. But it's a really big push by the coaches in this area to let everyone know there is good football in the 540 area code.
No doubt. We are very excited to know how well the area teams have been performing. So let's take a look at the games from this past week, starting with the 6A. Colonial Forge had to make the long trek down to Virginia Beach and take on an awfully impressive team in Ocean Lakes. Got out to a quick 20-0 lead and held on for a 23-20 victory. Justin, you were at this game. What was that game like?
I'll tell you who gets credit is Coach Mangano was with us last week here on the Gridiron Report, and he said Colonial Forge just as fast as those teams down there, and they absolutely were. Ocean Lakes is a team that likes to run the spread. They like to run jet with their kid coming around the end. They like to run a lot of screens. But Colonial Forge, they're running jet and the kids coming around the end, and Colonial Forge kids are running right with them. Forge took that away, especially in the first half. Ocean Lakes receivers probably didn't have the best game, and there's some drops. The quarterback was 2 for 14 in the first half, and the Eagles get that lead, and it's just enough. By the time Ocean Lakes sort of wakes up, time is short, and the Eagles are running away. Daniel has a guy who had a great game. He carries the ball twice, 32-yard touchdown, 38-yard touchdown, and then they kick to him to start the second half, and he takes it to the house for a touchdown. Playing against Ocean Lakes with a team that has a lot of kids with a good reputation for being college players. As a guy who was the best player on the field from either team, he was the kid the big difference maker. So Colonial Forge they go to the Final Four for the first time in school history.
First trip to the Final Four. So congratulations to the Eagles for that. Coach, that's something certainly JM has some experience with, but what is it like to be able to know after such a long drought, school has never made it to the Final Four, they finally made it. What does that mean mean to a school and to that community?
I tell you, it lights the community up. It lights the school up. You know, I guarantee you, Colonial Forge had a great following to the game, just like we had to our game. Yeah. Colonial Forge has a great football program. Bill Brown is just an awesome football coach, and he's been to the Final Four. He's a Hall of Fame coach, and I'm sure he had those kids mentally and physically ready to play Ocean Lakes. And I think he's a little bit like me too. Yeah, he feels the same way I do. So does Joe. About, you know, you hear so much about 757, and when it comes time to play, you're going to come out and play. And they did. Forge played, and I'm so proud of them winning because I think he does a great job coaching, and he has a great bunch of kids.
Do you remember your first trip to the Final Four?
Yes.
As a coach?
Yeah, it was 1986.
Yeah,
and it was we played. We had all our games were at home, and so I didn't have to go too far. We were lucky as heck, and we played the state championship game at Maury Stadium, so I was pretty lucky. Yeah. I was pretty lucky. Then after that, they changed to neutral sites.
Well, Forge gets the big victory, but they have to make another trip down to Virginia Beach to take on another strong Virginia Beach area team, Oscar Smith this time.
Yeah, Oscar Smith, 13-0.
13-0.
And if you paid attention to the reporting and so on before the game, everybody's been anticipating Oscar Smith, Ocean Lakes, and what was going to happen and who was going to win that game. Everybody thought Ocean Lakes and Oscar Smith was going to be a good matchup. If Colonial Forge can play with Ocean Lakes, I think the conventional wisdom is you can play with Oscar Smith. It's another team, a lot of weapons, a freshman at quarterback, but they don't count on him to win the game. He's got a ton of receivers to throw to, a good running back to hand it off to. I think their defensive linemen, they have a 5-star recruited defensive tackle. They got another defensive end that can make plays. So that's going to be the real test for them is, can they do it? Can they repeat the effort, match the intensity, and can they find a little bit of offense? They won, probably not as offensively exciting as they wanted to be, but you do enough to win, and that's what counts. So can they do that again this week?
Right. Coach, we've been talking about the fact that some of these teams have to make the long travel. You've done this actually, and you're going to be doing it again this coming week. Yes. How do you prepare the team mentally to be able to do that back-to-back weeks, big games, getting up for the travel, and then being able to perform once you've finished that long road trip?
Well, I think if you do things right, and to be honest with you, it all revolves around food. You feed them really good before they get on the bus. Okay, you get on the charter bus. The kids love charter buses. They understand if they're taking a charter. At least our kids do, and I'm sure they do too. You're taking a charter bus to a game, you're in a big game. Because if you're not on a school bus and you're on a charter bus, it's a big game. And there's a mindset on that charter bus, and we have to go 3 hours to Heritage, and that's after an hour and a half to Lafayette. Then if when we win that one, we have to go 3 more hours the next week to Liberty. It's the kids respond well. I think they respond really well, and I don't think there's any factors involved because you're on those charter buses.
It's the charter bus games. I never thought of it that way.
There you go. Well, congratulations to the Colonial Forge Eagles making the Final Four for the first time in school history, and good luck next week taking on Oscar Smith. Now, let's take a look now at the 5A North. Well, it was the rematch of the game of the year, at least locally, North Stafford and Massaponax. Massaponax pulling off the overtime victory the first time around during the regular season. This time, North Stafford gets their revenge, pulling off a 35-21 victory to move on. This was really, in some ways, an upset, but also not so much. This North Stafford team is awfully good, not taking anything away from Massaponax.
And I think North Stafford probably thought they should have won the first time around. They sort of lost control of the game at the very end, and Massaponax takes advantage. This time North Stafford, Massaponax tie game at the half. Massaponax fumbles the kickoff to start the second half, and North Stafford capitalizes. James Monroe, you guys did the same thing where you came out and the Lafayette gets the ball to start the second half. They turn the ball over. You guys scoop and score. Right? You can change a game.
Exactly. Momentum can change in a heartbeat, and that's what happened. Yeah. And that makes a big difference. All of a sudden, you get that jolt of electricity in your body, and you're ready to go. You're ready to play. Yeah. You're ready to play more. It's amazing.
Yeah, so North Stafford comes out, and I think they did a better job offensively, moving the ball. That's obviously, I think, the fewest yards Massaponax has managed on offense this year. We know the North Stafford defense is very good, and I think they showed it this week.
No doubt. We talked about that with Coach Mangano last week. the decision, the key to the game was going to be probably the North Stafford defense versus the Massaponax offense, and the Massaponax running game primarily. Rushing yards, North Stafford 290, Massaponax 148 in this game. And how about this? I mean, Von Purvis, you talk about a stat filler. 28 carries, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing, and another touchdown receiving the ball. I think he had 1 catch for 40 yards receiving. It's pretty impressive. You've seen this kid.
Oh, we had to try to tackle him.
Yeah.
To me, he's the best player in the area, in my opinion. I think he's a great, dynamic football player, and he's a great kid too. And he's a team player. Joe's talked to me a lot about his attitude and how much of a team player the kid is. He's a tremendous football player. We had a hard time keeping him under control. When we played North Stafford, they might have taken us a little bit lightly. We were up at the half, 17-14, but then Purvis took control in the second half, and he's the type of kid that can do that.
Coach, when you guys play North Stafford, going in, you've got to take Purvis away.
Right.
Do you think, and yet you're still not able to? I mean, do you think there's something teams can do to take him away? I mean, can he be taken away?
You never take away a kid that good. You control a kid that good. You keep him under control. You don't let him break the big ones. You make him nickel dime 3 yards here, 4 yards here. You don't give him the long run. You control him, but you can never take him away. Or you can try to control him.
What was the saying about Barry Sanders? You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him.
That's exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah. You hope to contain him.
Yeah.
Apparently, Von Purvis and Barry Sanders, same guy.
Well, there you go, Vaughn. You've been compared to Barry Sanders, so nothing to live up to there. Here's another great stat. So we talked about Izagu, who had 2 carries in his game and 2 touchdowns. Joey Sly, 2 carries, 34 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also caught 5 passes for 48 yards, and he kicked a couple of extra points, and a good all-around kid. Played some defense.
Yeah, Sly, I think especially his defensive work is maybe even underrated. He's a good linebacker, can run, very athletic, comes from an athletic family, makes a lot of tackles for them. North Stafford's had sort of a nice run of linebackers the last couple of years. I think Sly is the latest one of those, and then can contribute on offense. He's an athlete, and in high school football, you're still going to hand it to your best kids and get them the ball and let them make football plays. And there's Joey Sly for you.
So how tough is this on Massaponax? They lose 1 game. They finish the season 12-1. On the surface, it certainly feels like it should be a successful season, but you have to believe that they really feel like they had a chance at the state championship, and they let it slip away.
You're going to have games, it's going to come down to the playoffs, and especially once you've reached this level in the playoffs, you're 2 good teams playing each other, and a good team is going to lose. Coach, the game I always think of you guys is 2007 and the Pocosin game. I know that's one I could see it in your face. That's still one that you feel like, gosh,
Agony.
Yeah, and just to lose in a game where you think we can win this game, we've beaten this team.
Right. Now you got to look at Massaponax. They had a great season, and they played most of the season without that great defensive lineman.
Yeah, Benny Mahota. Yeah.
Iota. What a player! What a player he was. And then Jovante Latney spent a lot of the season with banged up legs, banged up knees, and stuff like that.
That's right.
You got to give Eric Ludden a ton of credit for keeping that team together and making the run they made. And it's a shame that 2 great teams from our area had to go banging against each other.
Yeah.
And I wish they could have played somewhere else, because Ludden and Joe are 2 of the best coaches I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a little bit as well, Coach, though. The fact that they do have to butt heads and bang up against each other, how well does that prepare them for these other matches against teams that they're not familiar with from the 757 and other areas? Doesn't it toughen you up? I mean, you played a pretty tough schedule this season.
It makes you battle tested. And I told a number of my friends, the reason why we did well against Lafayette is because we had to bang heads with Sorrentino and Mountain View. We had to play North Stafford. We had to play Essex, who I think is one of the best single-A teams I've seen in a long time. And then, we had to bang heads with Cortland and King George. And I think that made a difference, because I don't think Lafayette played a schedule like that. I really don't. And I think that's made North Stafford tough. And I think they're going to give Briar Woods all they can handle.
I think you look at North Stafford, Mountain View, Colonial Forge, James Monroe. I think the schedule those 4 teams played this year, I think those are 4 of the toughest schedules for those schools they've ever played. I don't know if you guys feel like you've ever played a harder schedule.
No, it's the toughest schedule I've had in 15 years, 10, 15 years. I've never played anybody that tough, because Petersburg was so good. And they made the playoffs. 8 of our 10 teams that we played against made the state playoffs.
Wow.
So that's pretty impressive, I think.
That's a quality strength of schedule right there. Well, congratulations to Massaponax on a good season. Unfortunately, their season is over, 12-1. While North Stafford moves on, as we mentioned, they will be taking on Briar Woods, a team that they have also faced this season. Ended a long winning streak, in fact, on Briar Woods' field. They're going to have to go back and repeat that if they want to continue on in the playoffs.
At the Freelance Star, we've talked about Briar Woods so much this season. I feel like they're almost a local team. Briar Woods beat Colonial Forge. North Stafford beat Briar Woods. Briar Woods eliminates Mountain from the playoffs, and now you go Briar Woods and North Stafford again. I think it's a great matchup that everybody really wants. Everybody wanted to see Briar Woods reach this point. They had such a great run when they were a Division 4 team. They've moved up to Division 5 with McSorley. It's translated. They're still a really good team. He's certainly one of the best quarterbacks in the state. Certainly one of the most highly regarded quarterbacks in the state. And I think North Stafford's defense probably did as good a job against him as any team has done against McSorley and Briar Woods for McSorley's entire high school career. All North Stafford has to do is repeat the feat, do it again.
Coach, is winning the second time against a big team like that more difficult than the first?
Very difficult. But Joe is such a technician. He will come at you in different sets, formations, because he's such a good coach. He will not. Briar Woods won't see the same stuff that he ran the first time. I put money on that. That's how good a coach Joe is. And Briar Woods is going to have. It's going to be a 48-minute game. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to go 48 minutes, and maybe the last team with the ball is going to win it.
When you were in Single A, did you see this situation where, I know you didn't see it as much 3A because you weren't playing a lot of 3A teams in the regular season, but maybe in Single A, did you see this situation where you see a team and then you see them again?
And one of the toughest losses I ever had was we beat Essex. We crushed Essex at JM earlier in the season, and they came back. We had a couple of injuries, and they beat us for the regional championship. Yeah. And it was hard to get the kids up, knowing that we beat them 34-6, and then they come back and we lost 16-13. Those kids coming off that field were heartbroken because they had thought they had that game in the bag because they had beaten them before. You as a coach can't let that happen. That attitude can't happen. It's 0-0. It's a new day. It's a new game. But unfortunately, I didn't think I did a good job coaching that day.
As a game planner, do you save stuff? Do you hold stuff back early in the season? Do you hold stuff back that we're going to go to this later?
No, you don't hold anything back. You modify what you say. If you're early in the season, you focus on fundamentals. And I don't get too wrapped up in the rivalries until we start getting start playing Cortland. Until I play Cortland, then I really get wrapped up in the rivalry. But you take each game as a challenge. This situation here, I'm sure North Stafford took Briar Woods as a tremendous challenge the first time. Now to get them again, it's even a greater challenge because now Briar Woods and Charlie Pierce will be breathing fire.
It's going to be a great game. I think that's certainly one to look forward to statewide.
Absolutely. Well, North Stafford with a 35-21 victory over Massaponax to move on. Let's take a look now at that Cortland team and the 4A North. Cortland Cougars had to visit Sharando for a tough 4A North matchup. Came from behind a couple of times and were driving late in the game. Unfortunately, a turnover resulted in a touchdown drive by Sharando that ended up being the deciding factor. Cortland falls 27-20.
And this was, I think, the first opponent Cortland's faced that's managed to take away not just one of Cheatham, Green, or Jenkins. They sort of took away all three. None of the three get over 100 yards. And, to do that, I think that says a lot for Sharando to be able to defend all phases. You saw a Wing T team this year, and even you guys had a hard time taking away everything. To do that against a Wing T team is tough, right, Coach?
Well, we played Cortland. We couldn't take away any of the three. All three of them had great games against us. I think what made the difference was the fact that Sharando was battle tested with the Wing T, and that made a difference. And they were able to get their kids in the right positions to stop them. And where we only saw the Wing T that one day, they played a number of teams who did the Wing T, and that makes a big difference because you can't simulate the Wing T in practice. That drives me crazy because I run our scout team. For me to try to tell our kids how to run the Wing T, boy, I wind up with a headache every time I do it because it's such a complicated offense, in terms of blocking, who pulls, who doesn't pull. Mm-hmm. But I think Sharando was tested on that, and I think that's why they responded so well.
Cortland was able to pull off 10 straight victories sandwiched in between opening the season with 2 losses and then the season-ending loss. But 10-3, I think a lot of schools would take that record.
Well, and not just 10-3, but I'm sure to coaches' chagrin, a lot of their kids are coming back next year. They're going to have a lot of the same faces again next year. Cheatham, Jenkins, and Green are all back. Jabari Allen at quarterback, he's back next year. I think the Cougars have a lot to look forward to next 2 years.
3,000-yard rushers. It's the first time that we know of in the Fredericksburg region that's happened.
Yeah,
in the same school.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing stat. Just to have enough guys to have enough snaps to hand the ball to 3 different guys to get 1,000 yards each. That's amazing.
Well, congratulations to Cortland on a wonderful season. They finish 10-3, and their season is over. Here we are with the 3A East, and Coach, this is the team in a region that we know a little bit about here. Your JM team visiting Lafayette had to go into overtime to pull off a 34-28 hard-fought victory. Congratulations again on a very well-played game. Lots of passing. Jay Scroggins just throwing the ball all over the place. But you do what works, right?
You got to do what gets you there. And we struggle running the ball. Our offensive linemen are more kind of a pass blocking type of lineman. And Jay's wonderful. He's carried us on his shoulders the entire year. He's a great kid. And we went down to Lafayette. The record didn't bother us. The rankings didn't bother us. The kids were ready to play. We felt we were battle tested, and we stepped up and we got it done.
Justin, how impressed were you with the performance that JM put? You were at this game as well.
I think the most impressive aspect of the game was the JM defense. You say, oh wait, you gave up 28 points. They gave up 28 points, but it was 28 points, and every single yard Lafayette earned, they're going to go 4 yards at a time, 5 yards at a time. I think Lafayette had an 18-yard run by their wingback one time on a jet sweep, and then they had a long kickoff return.
Right.
And outside of that, they limited them to really short plays, and every yard Lafayette earned, every drive they had to sort of move slowly and methodically, and then when you talk about the big plays and the big moments in the game, it's JM. Whether it's, a drive when they had to have it, Scroggins in overtime and Scroggins in the fourth quarter, or the fumble return that started the second half, the interception that ended the first half. I think JM made the biggest moments, and they all went JM's way for sure.
And another fumble that you recovered, your own fumble in the end zone.
Right.
So tell me about this. Is it Maury magic? Is it Serbay magic? Is it Yellow Jacket magic? Is it magic at all? How is this happening?
Well, I'm an emotional coach, and I preach that to my players. And there's something about that emotion that carries us over. We took a little bit from Marshall. We are James Monroe, and then we feed on that. And the kids feed on it emotionally. I want to coach my team. I want my team to be enthusiastic and emotional. And whatever people want to say about Maury magic or whatever they want to say, that buys right into what we're doing. The thing about it is I've coached many of their fathers, uncles, brothers. I've coached them all, and that belief comes right down the line. And when we play, we believe we can win any game we play. And it's a belief that's very strong.
How wonderful is it to have that kind of a tradition with a program? I mean, that's one of the things that, in many ways, is unique in the Fredericksburg area.
Yeah, I think it certainly is. You look at the Stafford schools. I'm a product of the Stafford schools, and I understand, the sort of the dynamic there. But that's a bedroom community where you might not go to the same high school your older brother went to, but the city of Fredericksburg is different. It's a city. It's a lot of people who grew up and lived in Fredericksburg. Their parents went to James Monroe. Coach, I know you've seen fathers and sons. You haven't seen grandsons yet, I don't think.
I don't know. It's getting close.
But just no other school in the area has that, the tradition and sort of the community of it's not just moms and dads coming to the game. It's people who live in Fredericksburg, who love Fredericksburg, who say, what are we doing on Friday night? Let's go down to Maury and watch the football game. And there you go. And I think it really bleeds over. Coach certainly plays a big part of that, I'm sure. Just the love that people feel for James Monroe.
The alumni web in this city is amazing. I mean, the donations we get and the way they support my program is absolutely amazing. From the McDaniels, the Kings, you name right down the line. The web just branches out, and you can see it when you go to our games. The alumni that are in the stands, the fathers, the mothers, the alumni, people that graduated from James Monroe. It's one big family. I've never seen something like this, and I just enjoy it so much. I'm in it with them, lock, stock, and barrel, because I bleed black and orange, and they do too. And we have a saying, TCB for life, and we have it on our shirts. And the shirt that I got the kids this year, it was in the back: one town, one team, one dream.
Wow.
Now that's the attitude we have: one town, one team, one dream.
So 3 straight years making it to the Final Four. You were telling me before we started filming here tonight that you've got a nice mixture of some fresh blood and some seasoned veterans on there. You've turned over a pretty fair amount of your roster, but you continue to succeed. What does it mean to these kids that they get to make the trip down and take on Heritage now?
Well, the big thing that helps my program is the fact that the last 4 years we've graduated 22 to 23, 24 seniors per year. What we do, and it's so important to get to Game 11, we bring all the young kids up, but we bring our best JV kids up. They get all this extra practice time, all this extra playing time, and so when you come back the following year, your kids are seasoned. They've been there. They've been through the wars. And so when I come in, the team was like, well, Serbay, you lost 24 seniors. How are you going to be? I said, we're not going to be that bad. Because why? Because those kids got a chance to play. You can't buy this experience. That's why we bring them all up. We bring as many. We dress all 55 kids for the game, and we bring every young kid we got who thinks is going to help us next year. They come up, and it just keeps the program feeding in the right direction.
When you get to game 15, you've essentially played another half of a season.
Yeah, no kidding.
You're playing a season and a half as opposed to just one season. Yeah.
So 3 area teams still alive: James Monroe, North Stafford, Colonial Forge. That's impressive. We should be very proud of the performance in the Fredericksburg area, the 540, whatever we want to call it.
That's me. That's some of my coaches, and I think that's some of the coaches in the area. We take a lot of pride in football in this area. This is a great area for football. I mean, obviously with the records and the schools, it's a great area for football. And the recruiters now are starting to knock down the doors to come here because there are great football players in this area. And I think it's a pride thing, not only by me, but every coach that's in this area. It's a pride thing, and that's a unification of all the coaches in this area.
And Coach, you talked about recruiters, and Bevel's is going to end up at Richmond, right?
Yes, Bevel's is going to wind up, I think, at UR. I think that's where he really wants to go. We had a bunch of schools in today: William and Mary, Holy Cross, Towson, but he really wants to play at Richmond. He loves Richmond. He loves the situation there. They've offered him. Now he has to keep his SATs. He has to take his SATs again, and he has to keep his grades up, and then he's in the money. And I'm real proud of that. That's a good accomplishment for us.
Yeah.
As a small school, I'm very proud of Jamal Bevins.
12 catches, 151 yards, and they could not. You talk about a player that was the difference in the game. Lafayette could not take him away. Whether they were running the slant, the out, he made a couple really nice catches, had some oohs and ahs from up in the press box where he's just getting up, and he's so tall and long, he can jump and can run, and great hands, and just a big playmaker for JM.
Made an interception defensively as well, right?
Yeah, indeed. A big interception. Lafayette has the ball. They're going to get the ball to start the second half. They have the ball towards the end of this first half. James Monroe makes an interception, drives down, gets a touchdown. Now you're down 1 score. Then first play in the second half, Lafayette fumbles, JM scoops and scores. Now you're a tie game. It's a whole new ball game.
He turned it around with that interception, and he's such a great player on both sides of football. He's got 8 interceptions. 4 of them have been in the playoff games. Wow. He rises to the occasion, and he makes the big catch. He makes the big play. He had 13 assists also. He had 5 tackles and 13 assists. That means every time that kid tried to turn the corner and eject, he was there.
Yeah,
he was there.
It was actually funny that we were. I'm up in the press box with several other media members, and Lafayette scores on a pass. It's like a trick play for Lafayette. They don't throw the ball. They score on the pass. They go up 14-0, and right then you're thinking, ooh, is this the moment where Lafayette starts to put it together and James Monroe lets it slip away? And I think the interception and the fumble, those 2 moments turn the game completely around.
Let's make sure we get some other stats out here. Jay Scroggins, 32 of 45, 326 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and also a rushing touchdown. And then Jamal Bevel, as we already mentioned, 12 receptions, 151 yards. And then Antonio Edwards, 10 receptions for 77 yards and another touchdown.
And you can't say enough about Scroggins. James Monroe, they sort of completely got away from the running game. It wasn't there in the second half, and it was going to be Scroggins, and everybody knew it was going to be Scroggins. And he took a bunch of hits. He threw his first touchdown pass. He threw to Edwards, I think, and he took a hit in the mouth. And I think they had to come out and help him off the field. And you're like, oh, is he going to get back up? And the kid's tough. He gets up and.
The referee said it was a legal hit, and I said it wasn't, and we got into an argument, but that's okay. He took 4 hits. He took 4 shots, and he was still playing on a hip pointer that he got in the Cortland game. But he's on his today. He had great practice. He's healthy, so we're happy. And he's healthy. I'm happy. He's a great kid. He's a great kid.
Well, congratulations once again to JM for their victory over Lafayette in overtime. Big game coming up against Heritage this week. 3 teams from the area still alive in the playoffs for the semifinals for the state. So
Final Four.
Final Four. Congratulations to North Stafford, Colonial Forge, and James Monroe. Well, that'll do it for this week's installment of the Gridiron Report. 3 area teams still alive in the playoffs. How about that? Please remember to check back with us next week as we recap those 3 games and hopefully talk about some championship opportunities. How about that?
Yeah.
You'd like that, Coach, yeah?
I would like that.
As long as it's one of your team. You're part of the discussion.
I'd like to be part of the discussion.
Well, I hope that we're able to do that. Please remember to follow Justin Rice and the great folks from FLS Varsity. Keep up with all of the latest in the area high school sports scene. You can log on to flsvarsity.com. Of course, you can read the Freelance Star. You can also follow them on Twitter at FLS Varsity. For the Riverbend Sports Network, I'm Mark Coleman. Thanks for watching, everyone.